Why, hello there everyone. I'm Laxow, aka the Kumo Sensei. Minasan, ohayo gozaimasu. And today I'm going to be feeding some tarantulas and answering some pretty interesting questions that I've gotten in terms of pricing and the tarantula market. So, without further ado, let us get straight into it. In terms of this video's content today, it's pretty much straightforward. It's just your typical Tuesday tarantula feeding. So I'm not going to be going too much in depth about it, but I will be going in depth about talking about tarantula pricing and marketing here in the United States. So let's go. So I've gotten an email from someone asking about why is tarantulas so expensive in my area. And this individual is in the West Coast. And to be honest, that pretty much explains why your prices are so high. So a lot of people do think that tarantula prices are supposed to be a set price all around within the United States, but that's really not how it works. It really depends on where you live. And allow me to explain, if you're a tarantula business and you're selling a tarantula, there is going to be a sales tax that comes with it, and also a state tax, and the state tax will depend on where you live in which state. This is why in the West Coast, tarantulas are more expensive. It's really just to cover up the taxes and the cost overall. Especially since the West Coast is very expensive in terms of living costs. So if you compare prices between someone who's selling tarantulas on the East Coast in comparison to somebody who's selling tarantulas on the West Coast, you're going to notice a slight price difference. Now granted, there are other factors as well, such as the seller setting a price up for themselves on how much they want to sell for, inflation, the species, the size, you get the gist. There's a lot of factors, but in terms of prices and where you live, you're going to notice there's going to be a set range. Once you start looking around in different parts within the United States, now for me, I live on the East Coast in North Carolina, so prices here is relatively fair and much lower in comparison to California. So to the individual who sent that question, I hope this answers some of it, or at least give you a general idea of how the market works. And to anyone who is from the West Coast of the United States that are watching this, please do not take offense to this. This is just me talking about the tarantula market overall as it is right now, and this is also one of the reasons why a lot of people don't really want to talk about the tarantula market, because people are afraid of getting backlash or getting blacklisted from other tarantula breeders or people getting gossiped about behind the scenes. So a lot of people try to not say anything about it, but I'm trying to be as transparent as possible here. And I also want to make a disclaimer that this is just me oversimplifying it. It's way more complex than this, and there's way more that goes into it, and there may be other things that come into costs as well. But this is just me giving it a very, very watered down and very simplistic approach to you viewers to understand. Because let's be honest, I'm not an accountant and I don't want to do math, and I don't think anybody wants to do math. But anyhow though, I don't want to speak too much about the tarantula business because I don't want to get backlash from other sellers, vendors, etc. So let us move on to the next question. And this question is one that I've already answered a few times already on the channel, but you may be new, so I'm going to answer this question as well. And that question is, where do I start if I want to make money? So this individual is talking about the tarantula markets, and if I'm being honest, I don't think tarantulas are the most lucrative exotic pet to sell. So basically what I'm saying is that this tarantula market isn't it if you're looking for money, and making it long term and succeeding is very rare and very difficult. So you're going to have to play the game of time, because time will reveal a lot of things, because it's going to challenge you a lot. Because when it comes to the exotic pet trade, no matter what it is, whether it's fish, snakes, lizards, or tarantulas for that matter, everything of exotic pets will take time. So from my experience and from what I've seen, usually it's around 5 to 7 years that a tarantula business will last before they shut down. And honestly, if you can last 5+ years as a tarantula business, you may have a slightly better chance of making it long term. And it's strange to say this as well, but it's usually the people who are trying to go fast or trying to build up quickly as possible that usually falls first. I do have a story I would like to tell, but then again though, I'm going to save that for another time. But I will say this though, taking it slow is pretty much going to be a requirement. And the reason why I say that is because this tarantula market is extremely more competitive now than it has ever been. And because of that, it's going to take a much longer time to succeed long term, or succeed as a business in general. But I do try to help out tarantula breeders and businesses as well, but usually they don't make it, and sometimes they get too comfortable, which is honestly kind of where it falls apart actually, now that I think about it. The thing is this, never get comfortable because you can have one good year of sales and the next year you're bankrupt. So if you're smart, you will actually focus on the sales you have this year or that current year and use it as a gauge to kind of point you in the direction of where you want to go for next year. So don't get comfortable. Always be curious and always trying to help out and reach out because kindness goes a very long way. Oh my god, don't be stubborn, man. That's all I gotta say. Oh wow. Okay, sorry, I went too deep on that, but without further ado though, I also want to answer this question as well. I think somebody left this in one of my comments on one of my YouTube videos here. Somebody did say that there's too many tarantula breeders and it's too saturated. And actually, I do agree on that, but I want to preface this as well. Any and pretty much every market in this world is too saturated in itself, but that's essentially the nature of how the market works. It's competitive. Any business that is selling something, whether it's a service, a product, whatever it is they're selling, is going to come into an industry or a market to where they're going to have competition. No one comes into business without knowing that there's competition, and this is just name of the game. So when somebody says that this industry is too saturated, pretty much every industry in terms of the exotic pet trade can be stated as too saturated as well. Whether it's ball pythons, fishes, dogs, cats, birds, you get the gist. Pretty much you can label that into any and pretty much all industries at this point. So as time goes on, it's going to only become much more harder and much more saturated. Now this isn't to the people who are just selling here and there or just doing this as a part-time thing, but this really just goes out to the people who are trying to make this like a full-time income. As for me personally, as of now, this is still more like a part-time job, I guess, or more like a side thing I do. It still feels like a hobby to me and not necessarily as a business as of yet, but I would like to actually officially start a side business at some point selling tarantulas and spiders, but let us wait and see. Now I do say things like I want to have a tarantula breeding facility, things of that nature, but while I do say that as part of my dreams, that is also something that I do say out of sarcasm, so I hope people don't take that literally, but hey, a man can have a dream too, right? So let us hope for that day to come someday. Someday. And this is why I try to help out as much as I can whenever somebody reaches out to me through my email, because I believe it can be anyone, but it can't be everyone. And this is honestly just the pure truth. But to me, anyone is better than no one. And it could be you as well. You never know. But hey, I guess I'll call this a video for today. So, as the typical, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to stick around. I upload every single Tuesday and Friday here on this channel. And also support me on my social medias, such as my IG and Patreon. Shout out to my Patreon members, such as Kale, for keeping my tarantulas fed. Anything helps. And with that, stay lax and Laxow out from the Kumo Sensei.